next.
Okay, I've got 6:31. So we'll go ahead and get this work session of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia, Monday, August the 24th, 2020 to order. First, we'll go through the regular business meeting. We have a short meeting as far as business goes. Anyone want to do the invocation? Huh?
Invocation?
Tony, my default?
I'll do the pledge. I'll do the pledge.
Christy's never done the invocation.
All right,
Yeah,
Solange will
there's-
do the pledge.
No, you need to do it. You said you would do it
I'm going to
next.
say structure.
What, the pledge?
You should be doing it.
Should be good.
Then we'll have the minutes.
We're going to do a rosary for the invocation. I'll do it.
Under new business, we have the market construction and leasing agreement, which we're going to talk about in the work session. And then y'all can let us know whether you're comfortable with approving it in the form we have it tonight, or if you'd prefer to postpone it, but then we'll do a specially called meeting next Tuesday in order to approve it. But that will give everybody time to read through it if you're not comfortable tonight. So just keep that in the back of your head. And then we're surplusing some police weapons. So any other questions there?
On the surplus weapons, how are those sold? Are those just sold on, they can't be sold online?
They have to be sold at auction, federal firearms license.
Okay, all right.
So does this need to be added to the agenda?
No, it's on the
Oh,
agenda.
it's on the agenda, okay.
It's just whether y'all are going to be comfortable going ahead and passing it tonight,
Okay.
or whether you'll want us
Now.
to postpone. Any correspondence, Butch?
No, ma'am.
City attorney's report?
I think this is where we're going to discuss the
Yep.
market development agreement. And y'all know this is the market building. It's a DDA-owned property. So what's happening is Casto is becoming a consultant for purposes of construction management. We're not taking away any of the requirements for bidding or public nature of the actual construction process, but to coordinate leasing what the tenants want and what the structure needs to be. Casto is coming in to oversee construction and then lease up all the space. So it's got the controls on what they're doing. The big changes in the document are usually shown in yellow. And the first yellow is the one that puts the city council as a key decision maker at every key point of design of the building and approval of leases. So you'll see where there's a requirement and a reporting requirement for approval, it and the city, meaning the city comes back to city council for review. And now the other thing that is important about this is that we have to load in contingencies in the event the building, we decide the building costs too much in construction. There's just some contingencies out there that you want this agreement to be terminable in the event we don't reach those. And also you want the leases that are getting pre-leased property to have these contingencies in it. Those contingencies are in section D, and that is we don't approve the design of the building, we fail to get funding for the building that's necessary for its construction, or we fail to secure a contractor to do that. And so then the next part is all the leases are contingent on those contingencies if we pre-lease, which is really one of the purposes of this, is go ahead and get tenants lined up for the next building. There was a flavor to this that almost sounded like we were turning all the development over to Casto in terms of control. We approve a budget and then go. So that's why there's so many markups. There's also a section on reimbursable expenses which was uncontrolled, and that's why we took that out. So you'll see a budget as part of this process, but it's one of those things that has to come back to DDA and City Council for approval. You see actual numbers before anybody starts spending anything. So the other major modifications, it's a lot of redlining, was shifting of liability responsibility. And so what we've talked through with Casto is, hey, we have to be able to hold you accountable for both your leasing work and your oversight. Now, the actual construction and design is going to be done by somebody who bids and wins. So Casto, you can protect yourself, just go the other direction. We don't care about you covering your liability when it comes to construction defects when it's somebody else, but not to us. We're going to look at the scene, and everybody who's accountable to us is going to have a reasonable standard of the quality of the construction. So that's the big issues. Now, the cost of these services are on page 17 of 54, section 2.7. So the cost of the construction management portion of this is 4% of the hard construction cost. The cost of the leasing is on the next page, 19 of 54, is section 37A, and they will earn commissions of 4%. It can go up to 7% if they share that commission with an outside partner. The hard part of this that seemed it's a cash flow issue is that 50% of those commissions are earned when the tenant lease becomes fixed. So when all the contingencies are done and all the work is completed, then the DDA will write a check for half of the commissions due on the 4%, on the leases that are pending.
The 3 or the 7, not the 4.
Right, okay, all right, yep. So, but I'm, yeah, that's right, Butch is that's exactly right, yep. I guess, I'm trying to think if there's any other functions in here that we need to.
I just want to add that we checked with Jeremy Becker, kind of our property consultant, real estate guru consultant, on the percentages, and he said that that's right in line with standard percentages. He said you might be able to negotiate on the 7 to get it down to 6, but it's not really worth it. He said that he, and we also checked with several other cities as far as the 4% oversight fee, and most people are paying 5 to 6.5. So, and they were at 5 before we negotiated it down to 4. So those are good percentages from our perspective.
Because the DDA is really the principal obligor under this, I mean, the funding actually comes from the city, but we have already gone over it in detail with the DDA, and they've approved the agreement already. We had a telephone conference with the principal at Casto last week, and they were comfortable with the changes. We sort of discussed the philosophy of them, and Butch becomes the approver of minor things. He's the gatekeeper on what's minor and what's major in terms of approval that needs to come back to the. Now, there's some specific things in the agreement that say you got to come back and get approval, like the elevations. But he's sort of the gatekeeper of those. They know they're going to run into things that need quick decision making, and they hope to keep those in the minor group and let Butch communicate with you those things and not have to do it formally. I guess the only other issue is that we have a conference call tomorrow with the lawyers for Casper. And that's sort of the little wrinkle in where we are right now. We had no problem with management people, but they set up a telephone conference call tomorrow. So we might have some minor modifications to it. If you decide to go ahead and approve it tonight, my recommendation to you would be just, if they are truly minor, and we can send them to you and you look at them before execution, then we could approve it subject to that minor review. If it were something major, obviously, we'd bring it right back to council.
Any questions on this with what you have in front of you?
During our last meeting, I brought up the fact that we want to make sure that if there's any transfer of ownership, we have the ability to approve anybody that would take the original developer's place. Is that in this document? Is there anything in this document in case?
It's not assignable. This isn't one where we're going to hire him and he's going to go get somebody else to do this.
Right, so this is totally separate from the long-term operation agreement.
Right.
Okay. I was just concerned because it does have leasing in here, so leasing would be ongoing beyond the development. So we could run into that same issue with part of this agreement, would we not?
The expectation is that they're going to be here until it's 100% leased. I think the current expectation is you're going to get most of it leased with one tenant.
Right.
And so once that's done, this contract's over. So it's not an ongoing,
Yeah, we don't.
relationship.
Certainly don't. The way it's going right now, it doesn't look like it'll be ongoing, but, we do have that space in front, the market type space in front, that right now Jamal is saying he's comfortable in operating that.
Right,
But even without him,
but
once you're 100% leased, this contract.
right. The issue there becomes if he leases the main structure and then subleases out the little marketplaces out front, how is that affected? How do we have any way to protect ourselves from him bringing in Bimbos R Us as, one of those? I mean, do we have any right to approve or disapprove of anyone, because we approved him as a tenant, but he potentially will have subleases, and how is that dealt with in here?
It's dealt with, you'll see a bunch of red at the back of this document.
Yeah.
And all that really is a very structured lease that we've used in all our other, and it has a purpose requirement in it. Now, we haven't filled that blank in about what that purpose is, but you would structure, it'd be restaurant is what this would be for a restaurant, and however you describe the subleasing of restaurant space in common area would be the sole purpose of that. So it's handled, that part of this is handled in that, in the lease agreement. Now, one thing Casto said is they didn't criticize our lease, and we have basic terms that we're telling them have to be in, but they said, hey, we've got one that's even more structured than that we prefer. And so it would probably be more structured than that, but if Jamal we can't tie that down, because if Jamal isn't the person, then we have to be open enough to fill the blank in a different way.
And I understand that, but if you have a master lease, we have a master lease agreement with Casto. They then lease it to tenant A. Tenant A then brings on not the different purveyors inside his plant, but the out parcels basically.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that we have a way to protect ourselves and and I understand we got great relationships, we're all working together, kumbaya, but a velvet glove and a stick both work
Yeah,
together.
it's business. And you guys will have you guys have to approve that lease.
Yeah.
The DDA and the mayor and
Yeah.
council have to, whatever, and it can have those restrictions in it. I think as we get further down the road and we see, it won't be a master lease with Casto, it might be a master lease with Jamal.
Gotcha.
And so we would know about we may have the event space, be in control of the event space, and we may lease it to him for his events. and then we have, control of it. But it's all yet to be played out. But you guys will have the approval of the architect, the budget, and all leases.
Okay.
And the DDA is the owner of the building.
Okay.
Yeah, both groups will have to approve and inform them, which is what you're working on. That's where that goes.
Just belt and suspenders.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, y'all just need to let me know what you want to do. Whether you're comfortable approving this tonight, or whether you would prefer to have a little more time to dig into it, and we can postpone it and do a meeting next week.
I'm good.
I'm okay.
Dave's
I'm okay with it. Any major changes we're going to have to see anyhow.
Are the only changes, what's in, our changes are in yellow, or
No, we did all.
what's the
reds.
difference between the red and the yellow?
They're all changes, we did them all.
Okay.
Yeah, I just highlighted the ones that I thought were the most critical.
Okay, so that just brings me to the question. The ones that you highlighted that then were struck out, are we losing anything important there that we need to fight for? Particularly on page 16, page 15,
No, these are,
page 14.
every one of those changes were very favorable to the city.
Okay.
I highlighted it originally to call it to everybody's attention that it needed to be stricken. And
Okay.
so I just went ahead and struck it when we were dealing with the DDA. And so
Got it.
I just took a real shot at this favorable to us, and the owners really bent in our direction to say, okay. So we went pretty strictly to the city's interest.
If I have any issues, I'll let you know before the meeting,
Okay,
because we'll work through this pretty quick.
okay. All right, and then also under city attorney's report, Chuck has the scooter issue.
This is just the same thing. We did a moratorium 18 months ago on the shareable dockless mobility devices, which is the bird scooters and that. It's run out, and the legislators did not get to it during the last session. So this just is another 12-month moratorium. And I think this is going to be 13, Melissa? Resolution 2020-013. But this is essentially the same as the ones you've had in the past.
So because the other one we had did expire, if we could go ahead and add this to the agenda for tonight,
Consent agenda?
the consent agenda. So when someone makes a motion to approve the agenda, if you can add this as item A under the consent agenda. Okay, and, or,
I have one question. real
Yes.
quickly, Chuck. On the bottom of the first page, it says, whereas global, blah, blah, blah. Currently, Senate Bill 159 is still pending under the Georgia General Assembly. Since there's elections coming up, and they're going to done everything fall off the plate then? Or does that matter?
No, that will actually, I think that will still stay floating in the committees usually.
Okay, all right, because it's a Senate bill now. Got it.
okay, so now we'll go under discussion items. Butch, for projects.
Sure. I think everybody got their town center update last week. The two meetings that we know about are the standing 10:30 call on Tuesday with Winter to keep the parking deck project moving. I'll send out the information so anybody can join that. We also have an interesting meeting on Wednesday that is already full of, if we had one more, we'd have a quorum of the council, where a gentleman is interested in looking at the possibility of leasing the second floor of the business center above the library. Eric, you've had several conversations with Ramon. We felt like we'd done a little background on him. I'm not sure if it's a franchise or what it is, but there is a Thrive Business Center in Canton, in an old mill. And the Canton local government, city manager, planning director, were very pleased with what they have done there. They're new. I mean, they're like a month old, but the city manager seems to think that they're doing very well. And a lot of the local business people are accepting them very positively. So I think it's worth a conversation. And I'm not sure who is in attendance, Eric. I think Todd, Dave, and Barbara are coming for that. So we'll report back to everybody else after we hear Ramon's story.
And at this point, it is just Ramon coming, although he said he may bring a partner with him, but he wasn't sure.
Okay. But there's a lot of interest out there in what we're doing in our downtown, that's for sure. The jobs, once again, we're awaiting revenue impacts and seeing where we stand budget-wise. I thought it was interesting, some of the research I did, Solange, on the 2020 census, we are now at 74%. In 2010, at the end, we were at 73% response rate. So we've exceeded where we were in 2010. Gwinnett's at 67.8. In 2010, they were at 66.3. So they've gone up. A small amount, but not much. Georgia, the state is not done very well. Under 60%. At the end of 2010, they were at 62.5%. So we're above where we were 10 years ago, but we still need to keep pushing and keep going. So and the online is like 98% of all the responses. They don't have enough people knocking on doors trying to get responses. I know they're trying to hire people, but I'm sure we need to do better there. The UDO, I handed out a little information about the September 22nd Planning Commission meeting, where the UDO and the map changes, everything will go to the Planning Commission and then come to the council in October. We haven't had a real influx of responses online to the video, but I'm hoping that we can pull a few people into the Planning Commission meeting. Commercial property code enforcement and annexation. We're still out there working. If you have any new complaints, let us know. We know that everybody sees different things in the community. A couple of important miscellaneous things. I guess we're going to follow through with the market agreement this evening. We have that call. I really need a called meeting because later this week, you'll probably hear it on the winter call tomorrow, they should come up with their precast numbers. The most important part of getting this parking deck on schedule is getting a precast designer on board. They should have those numbers at the end of this week. I'd like to go over those with everybody next Tuesday evening if we could. I'd like to have a called meeting to give you an overall town center update, including if any changes come about in the market agreement. These are all very important issues. I want to take the time to keep everybody updated on those. So if there's any way we could, Tuesday, September the 1st, I think we'll have everything back. 6:30, 7, whatever is good for y'all. If y'all could.
If we're going to do that, can we just push the development leasing agreement until then? Because I was hoping to avoid another meeting, but if we're going to have another meeting, let's give ourselves time to dig into that. And plus, any updates you get tomorrow on legal.
At 6:30, okay? Is that enough time?
Yes.
We're
Okay.
saying September 1st, right?
September 1st, yes.
Yep, everybody good with 6:30?
Melissa, plenty of time to advertise and I appreciate that. The second thing, you have another handout, which has a lot of numbers on it. There has been a lot of discussions between cities and Gwinnett County on CARES Act reimbursements. Just to give you an idea, the initial number that we were requesting, basically following the county's guideline, is in that block at the top of page 1. We were talking about $56,000, $57,000. After discovering what the state was doing, paying out checks based on population to, 155, because this was Gwinnett is in one of the 4 most populous counties, and we were working, those 4 counties, DeKalb, Cobb, Fulton, and Gwinnett, had their own programs. Gwinnett's the only one that was not dispersing money based on population. So there have been discussions with the county. I know, Barbara, you've probably been involved in some of those, where we wanted to be on more of an equal footing with the rest of the local governments in Georgia. So we and all the other cities in Gwinnett have come up with much larger requests based on federal guidelines. So that $57,000 number is right now at about $2.7 million.
That's a big difference.
And believe me, that sounds like a lot. Duluth is higher than this. Lawrenceville is higher than
They're
this.
both over $5 million.
Swanee's a little lower. But we felt like if we didn't put everything in there according to the federal guidelines, as GMA has kind of given us guidance, and what these other communities are doing, that we were going to be left in the dust. So the conversations are ongoing. The last thing I've heard is that the county has been very amenable to our requests. All the cities do not have their requests in, but so we didn't try to throw everything in but the kitchen sink, but we tried to follow the guidelines. So. We'll keep you updated on that, but this is something that it's dollars that, if they're received, we can immediately start looking at evaluations and talking about raises for folks that we've delayed in this year's budget. So I'll keep you updated on that. You can kind of look over these categories, but Melissa's done a great job putting a lot of this together. And I feel like we're just doing what other cities are doing. So that's kind of where we are on that. An important part of our budget picture for the next 10 months. So that's all I have.
Okay. Next, we have discussion on the request to abandon property at 2288 Scenic Highway. And Butch had emailed out a map showing the location of what we're talking about.
And I think it was in your packet also.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in there.
And I think Tony and Chuck have done some research on this parcel. It's a 10-foot alley, about 125 feet long.
When you look at it, it's the parking lot. And it's just to give, this is the historic alleyway to give access to the parcel that's furthest away from Lenore Church. It's really for private use, split between them. I don't know why it's vested in the city. It just takes something off the tax roll is what it does. It's probably not a marketable piece of music. Nobody would want it for one. And number 2 is it's one of those reversionary pieces because it was owned by the adjacent property owners and put in the city just for the alleyway purpose. So if we abandon it, it'll revert back. All 3 parcels are now in the Norton family, so there's just not a lot to do. We wouldn't warrant title. We've not done title work to determine how it got into the city. nor would we warrant, give them any kind of assurance that we're giving good title. We're just simply would abandon it with a quick claim deed and start, it would get reconstituted into those parcels and become taxable next year.
Wow, that'll really boost it.
Well,
There's a raise for somebody, huh?
when you put all three parcels together
Yeah.
and that, it'll make a big difference in how it's priced. So it'll be a good.
Yeah, but the alleyway isn't the.
No.
Okay, so what needs to happen next on there? Do we need to have a vote to abandon the property?
You do?
Is that something we should do on the agenda tonight, or just put it on the next agenda? I mean,
Either way,
are we in any
whatever
kind of hurry?
plans.
Well, I'm sure Miss Norton probably is. Is there any reason not to act on it tonight?
I don't think so. I don't know that there's any citizens out there that would have an issue with it, so.
I mean, we didn't even know we owned it, right?
Well,
Was it on our roll of property?
It wasn't on our property.
There you go. So,
it's not, it wouldn't show up as a title coming into you, is why it's not on your list. But when you look at the tax map, you see it's shown. So it's a public property, it just doesn't tell you who it
right.
And I don't know what, Miss Norton is planning to do, but I know she hired Doug Stacks to kind of push this through, and Doug said, it'd be, that they want to do something. And so if there's any way we might be able to move this up and approve the drafting of an abandonment ordinance, it'd be nice to give them some direction.
Okay, so we can
Add that
add that as item B under the consent agenda. To abandon property at 2288 Scenic Highway. Okay, next we have update on Snellville Pavilion.
Lisa and I have kind of gone back to square one. She's been working with her staff.
No, wait, this is Snellville Pavilion.
Oh, okay.
Not the Park Pavilion.
Not yet.
Christie, you had this on there. Did you just want from?
General update, I think, for all of us, where we are with enforcement.
Chuck, do you want to go over what happened at the court?
Sure. Over the last two sessions of Quality of Life Court, which one was last week, at that one, Volta, their general manager, showed up, and they didn't ask for any reduction. They paid their full fine. Their explanation was that their corporate had not told them anything about it, but they understood that was too bad, that they were responsible for that. And he did show me where all of their shipments, he brought me a schedule to show me that ours are supposed to be scheduled now within the proper time frame. Also at our previous Quality of Life Court, we also did impose a full fine against the management company, the property management company, for a previous infraction that was there. So everything that's been cited currently, the only outstanding matter was Texas Roadhouse did not appear. So Officer Green was going to reserve them and make sure that their corporate people are all aware. And we'll make sure that they're on our radar, make sure we get them taken care of in the next Quality of Life hearing.
And I believe everybody is aware of the revised policy, enforcement policy that Roy and Jason are operating under. I've heard good positive comments about that. If there's anything you want to add or ask questions about that, we're glad to try to answer that.
Okay. All right. Now, Butch,
Oh,
item D.
Lisa's been working with her staff. We kind of, like I said, we kind of went back to square one. We want to let you know where we are. How we would operate first steps in deciding on a watch party is the location. The event area would be in the parking lot, the softball, baseball parking lot, just down the hill from the park office. We've had a couple of, trying to be very conservative in the area and also conservative as far as the alcohol service is concerned. What Lisa would propose is a sectioned off section within the greater watch party event. It would basically be a beer garden in the bottom right-hand corner that would be cordoned off, where all alcohol would be served, and that's the only place that they could partake in alcohol. It would be away, like I said, roped off from the general area. Service would take place there, and I think that's a good conservative way to approach this, which it's much easier to control. And you know, it's a soccer watch party, so we know that alcohol is something that soccer fans would like to have. But controlling them in this manner, I think they would be very accepting of that. And Lisa has sort of put some other areas out, put some cornhole games, some other opportunities for some snacks and treats, and you can see where the screen would go there on the walkway. I think this is a good start. I've got some rules and guidelines that I want to add to this, and we will bring that back to you, and hopefully get it approved next time with the necessary controls and guidelines that we could have a good event.
Are we going to place any kind of limit on the number of people, and how are we going to get them spaced out enough to follow social distancing?
Well, I mean, this is not something that we're looking at holding, you know, anytime
Okay.
soon with what we're going through.
I don't even know that they're playing soccer because that's all indoor.
What's that?
They're not even playing soccer now.
Oh, yeah, they're playing.
Oh, are they?
They got a new coach. They actually won their first game under their new
okay.
coach
Yeah,
the other day.
it's Atlanta United. They started last week.
Yeah, but in front of an empty stadium, so. But
So there isn't any plan in the near future to do this?
I mean, we would just have to see what the future holds. We're just trying to bring something back to you that you're comfortable with, that we can get approval for when the time comes. Lisa, do you have any other comments there?
No, you pretty much said it all. There really is no plan at this point for an exact event. It's really just in the hopes that, you know, down the road we get back to a little bit of normalcy, but we probably will have to adjust it whenever it comes to that. I don't know that we could ever know how many people are going to show up, but I think we can take some contingencies as far as spreading out and those kinds of things. That's a pretty big parking lot, even with the trees, you can do it in such a way that you can see the screen, so I don't think that'll be an issue at all.
Any other questions?
We're going to have somebody there to monitor the people inside and make sure they don't go outside the area?
Yeah.
'Cause that's going to be the problem. Everybody's going to be, yeah. And then they're going to want to go see somebody else outside. We need an enforcer.
It actually works. Having a beer garden actually works pretty well.
Okay.
They usually respect the cordoned off area. At least that's been my experience in the past.
I thought that's why we got away from it out here, though, because it became untenable. And so that's why it's now, you're able to drink on the entire
In the
green.
whole area.
No, we never had a special alcohol-only area.
Yeah, way back when we did.
Could always use this.
Not on one of the concerts.
We had the beer garden the one time with the Veterans Memorial thing going on.
Oh.
And it was just that beer garden in the middle, however. They still could go around the perimeter of the green and drink. It was just a beer garden. It wasn't, just different than how we normally set it.
Okay. All right, that ends our work session. And we don't have an executive session tonight. So is there a motion to adjourn the work session?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Second by Gretchen, all in favor? Okay. We'll see you in the meeting at 7:30.